Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to give a few seconds here to make sure everybody gets in okay. Hope everybody is enjoying their wonderful Wednesday. It is about 40 degrees, but sunny here in South Barrington, so we're at least a little happy for sun. Springtime soon. All righty. Well, now that we got everybody settled, again, I want to thank you all for coming into our webinar today. Today, we're going to be discussing Beyond Support, partnering for event success. You are joined by Rachel and I. I'm going to let Rachel introduce herself.
Thanks, Patrick. Hello, everybody. Rachel North, Director of Client Success here at eShow. Worked here just over 10 years now. Very excited to be presenting to you, and especially excited to be presenting with Patrick. Patrick, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Rachel. My name is Patrick Johnson. I am the team lead for customer support and global resources. I've been here at eShow for about 6 years and have a various customer service background, just like Rachel. Rachel and I have been great partners since I've gotten into eShow, and we'll say even a little bit of a mentorship here. So always appreciate you too, Rachel. All right. So here's what we're here to talk about today. We're really excited for everybody to join us and talk about how eShow can be a dynamic partner for clients in the event industry space. Rachel and I bring a lot of experience into this discussion about customer service, client success, and partnership. And we're going to be really excited to expand more on these 3 bullets that you're looking at here today. Our goal in support is to make things as seamless as possible, whether it be onboarding or software or our services to clients. Everything we try to do is in service of success and partnership. So we're constantly striving to make, any sort of changes, modifications to our process, updates to our system to make all of our clients happy as best as possible. My number one statement to clients before they would go to an event or when they would return from an event is, I hope your attendees had a wonderful time. I think that's all we are really pushing for at the end of the day, is we want to hear that attendees went to an event, were able to learn, were able to network, and more importantly, just enjoy themselves while they're there. If we hear that happiness, the client's probably happy, and in turn, we're happy. We're very committed to making sure that there's an enjoyable experience for everybody involved here. In this webinar, we're going to talk about ideas of partnership and ensuring success, but let's talk first about some common challenges that clients face. We know that clients, when coming into a new platform or getting used to a new platform, reach many, many challenges. This can be things like proper documentation or learning certain features and tools. Things are different from how they were at your last platform. But we are constantly committed to making this process better. Our focus is always to help clients get through the unknown, and we're going to talk about the ways that we help clients do that. I do want to throw a question to Rachel. What's the most often comment you hear from clients when they begin working on a new platform, whether it be ours or if you were a new client to a new platform?
I hear... Great question, Patrick. But what I hear most often, I think, is that they just want to know the series of events. Where are we heading? What do I need to do? What's priority? So anything that we can do to kind of walk them through that process beginning to end. Here's what we're doing now. Here's what we're coming up next. Really, it's just that unfamiliarity, Patrick, with not just the product itself, but the process and the things that projects throughout the way that need to be worked on. And so that's probably the biggest frustration, is just getting over that hurdle of the newness.
Yeah. And I'll say I wasn't a big fan of this statement until maybe a couple of years ago when I finally got it. But the I don't know what I don't know statement, we hear it a lot. And again, that's always the hurdle we're trying to get over. I think when we know what clients want, it's easy to answer, but sometimes not everybody's so forthcoming. So we got to get that out in many different ways. So now we want to hear from you. We've got a poll coming on the screen. And we want to hear what your answer would be to what challenges have hindered your experience in other platforms, whether this be onboarding or just general experience. Now, while that's going, Rachel, I kind of want to pose a question to you again. If you don't mind, can you talk about, what are the characteristics of customer service agents when you meet them kind of for the first time, or you're having a relationship and building a relationship with a new service agent?
The characteristics they look for, like positive characteristics?
Yeah, things that you like to see, or what seems positive.
I think for me, empathy, sympathy, anyone who really wants to understand the problem we're working through. The small things like addressing me by my name. I always appreciate that friendlier side of customer service, but at the same time, like when we got to get the work done, let's get the work done. So a good mixture, but there's nothing better than collaborating and getting on a call, even when there's a problem in front of you, and being able to work through that and in a positive kind of way.
My brain went in the same direction when I was thinking about this question. High level of care is just what came to mind. And that may not always come over somebody's personality, but it's the actions that they take, things you just named. Make sure you're using my right name. My name's Patrick. It's not John. It's little simple things that we all catch just in a normal sense anyways. So I appreciate that. And looking at our audience, it does look like we have a bit of a split between lack of proper education materials and timely responses to requests/questions. I feel like that's probably right up there with what we hear.
Yeah, those are the two. So excited, not excited people are having those challenges, but excited that we get to talk about the ways to get past that within eShow and maybe more in general even.
All right. It looks like we do have answers to the polls in. Again, this will be open throughout the webinar, so feel free to answer that at your time. Rachel, I'm going to swing it over to you for our next portion.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, client success stories, real results in action. I'm having a hard time with that. Hold on. All right. Really, we're just going to give a brief overview. We're going to talk about resources a lot during this webinar. Some of the ways, and we kind of get past some of the initial challenges. Guided onboarding. With eShow, we're high touch. We're there with you every step of the way. At least initially, we're doing a lot of that work up front, making the proper tools and resources available. So if you're working a late night, we got the help center, things like that. The efficient ticketing system, just keeping your priorities straight, making us more efficient in getting those requests done, and making sure they get to the right team as quickly as possible. And then I touched on this a little bit already, but really having those dedicated resources, partnering, it's consultative, it's getting to know you, it's getting to know about your event. Those are the things that we really try to strive for throughout the event cycle. We've got a couple of comments from what some of our longtime clients have been saying. They hit on a lot of great things here. I think solution-oriented, such a good phrase, fits us so well. We're not scared of addressing problems. We're not scared of kind of rallying together. Attention to detail. Those are the kind of things that set us apart in a lot of ways from others. Let's keep going. Getting the most from eShow, onboarding, optimization. Just to hit on those a little bit further. Part of this onboarding process and really that relationship building is that series of meetings. We're going to talk to you about your event, what that looks like, your business practices, what are your deadlines, who's who on your team, really getting to know each other, work styles. Are you tech savvy? Are you not? How deep do we need to go in these instructions? So really trying to personalize the journey specific to you and your association or company that's working with us. We have a couple of resources available throughout this event cycle as well. The Help Center, a lot of that 101, how to get started, basic instructions. We'll often, I won't say often, but we will address your questions in real time. But every now and then it's that helpful touch to say, here is in writing. So you don't necessarily have to reach out to us every time, but we really strive to keep everyone engaged and in the tool, learning the tool along the way. And then finally, we have that welcome packet. This is kind of that first introduction to eShow during the onboarding, within there, introducing you to the team, giving you kind of that rough guidelines of what this onboarding will look like, things like that. And then just to touch on that a little bit further. So within that welcome packet, we do include I'll call it a journey map, but in a very light way. It's kind of a what to expect in that first 30 days. So this is part of that welcome packet to really get this. It's really basic level, but these are the kind of the big milestones. Let's set up that intro call. Let's talk through those deliverables. What did you use in your last event? What are your sales items? All of those types of things. eShow does the build. So we take all of that information, take all of your business practices, and we are the ones initially building that out in the system for you. Then review and feedback. Now we share screen and say, hey, here's what we have set up. It's time for testing, give feedback. And then we kind of go through that, but we squeeze in some training in advance. And then when everyone feels ready, we're going live. You're opening that up to the public, whether it be your registration form, exhibit sales, or those call for papers. The onboarding process is similar in all of those with just a little variations dependent on the product within. So the 30-day mark is kind of our goal. We try to, it's a lot to learn in 30 days, but that's typically around that launch time. But this is kind of that brief overview.
It's an exciting journey once we get somebody in the door to getting that first form live. It can be anywhere from a good 30 days of, churning through everything that we need and getting it all set up to a few months and taking our time with it. But, each customer we like to approach with really, really grace and empathy with the fact that they're coming to a new system and learning new things. So once we get through that welcome stage, we have all of these support solutions available, and it is very comprehensive. So these, again, start day one, but you might not know how to use these things right off the bat. But it is good to be aware of the fact that we have self-learning tools. We want folks to be engaged in the system on their own. You don't need us at the end of the day. Once we get you up to speed, the system is yours to manage, and we're here to just support your success and make sure that we're a great partner to you and your event. We have a lot of great tools that are going on in the background, and Rachel just touched on some of those, and we're going to touch on a few more. But again, we've got these dedicated teams along with the support teams in the background to ensure that the partnership that we're putting forward is equally met with, the same strength from the client. One of the biggest things that has been a big help in differentiating us from other clients is some of the tools that we make available. And here are some that we'll talk about. We've had a really great implementation with a customer support team, taking in tickets and churning them out. We're taking in a lot of requests and getting them done within a day. So you need a report, we get it to this team, and it is voila in your pocket right before you log off for the day. We've also got great tools in our help center that is constantly growing. We're taking a lot of ideas and a lot of the things that we see and hear from clients and making sure that they're available in this help center. So there's no waiting. You want to get into eShow at 10 p.m. at night. Well, eShow folks are probably sleeping at about that hour. So we have these guides and instructionals available to you in this help center to make sure that that's still possible. We offer, again, a great dedicated support team that are there to be for you. You know, we use the word partnership a lot already in this presentation, but that is what we're here to be. We really are invested in the success. And again, we push that partnership to make it happen. Now let's talk about what's next.
Take that one, Patrick.
Yeah.
So recent launch here at eShow is the Client Success Department. And it's really all about just expanding on those things that we've already been doing, making it a little bit more streamlined. You know, we trying to address any of those hurdles before they become problems. So kind of what's coming up, I want to say over the next year or so, is a tool within eShow itself, the project summary. This is going to be used, you know, we're going to get those upcoming deadlines from you. When does call for papers open? When does it close? When are you wanting your mobile app to go live? So we're going to collect all that information, put it in a nice little project timeline, and that information is going to be readily available right in the system, right within that event, and really just help keeping everyone on track. It'll allow us to do a little bit more proactive engagement. If we know when something's coming up, we can reach out to you to make sure that date hasn't changed. You know, we understand priorities shift often. So that's going to be a great little tool we'll be rolling out. I think that's probably one of our higher priorities at this time. Another thing we're going to be focusing on, you know, we put a lot of emphasis on the new clients, but our current clients, you know, they need that support as well. So going to try and do a little bit more client focused webinars. And I say that in a advanced training, education, you know, covering those new product updates, the best practices on how to use those. So really just going to drive current client content. And really try and create a community, I think, amongst our clients. So that's going to be another big focus here coming soon. And then finally, kind of goes right with that project summary is kind of those journey maps. This might be geared towards more a new client, but you know, a much more in-depth version of that first 30 days document I showed you. We're going to do all of those deadlines. Here's where we're at in this 6 weeks process, whatever that looks like for you. And then keeping you guys on track of here's where we're at. Here's what's coming next. Are we still, you know, is this still the priority? And really just outlining so that you're not questioning what's coming next, you know, and we're not getting the, I don't know what I don't know. Well, we're going to tell you what you need to know, and it's going to be right in front of you. And more so just, I mean, that partnership again of all of us being on that same page, navigating through this together.
We
all right,
have
Q&A time.
Yeah, we've hit our Q&A. We'd love to hear any questions the audience has. We do have a couple that were sent into our moderator. Rachel, I'm going to kick off one we didn't really cover this too much in the presentation here, but I think it's a good question for the audience. How does your team handle unexpected challenges during an event?
That is a great question, Patrick. I will say, I think the initial thing we always want to do is anything that we can do to avoid those challenges. You know, really a lot of meeting and discussing and making sure everyone's on the same page, things are being tested thoroughly. So that's our first goal. But we understand it's technology. There's a lot, you know, things happen, things change. So I think when we do approach those challenges, really, we rally. Like you're not going to face that alone ever. You're going to be surprised at how many people show up on that call for you. And we're really solution oriented, talking through exactly what's the problem, what's our quick fix for today. We got to get this, moving, and then always following up with that. Okay, now that we've solved we put out the fire, let's talk about what the future looks like and how we're going to do this better next time, or maybe it's a programming change at that point, but really just fighting together, Patrick, of just being really solution oriented.
Well, and I think one big thing too is, one thing in your coaching to me when I got here, and thing that we've been pushing, coaching out to the teams ever since is, trying to be preventative, but we don't always have all the answers, right? So we're trying to maybe fix a problem that could have been fixed at the beginning. Well, now we know, but how do we get past this for now? We got to find a solution. So it always does kind of, it's a tough shot once you reach something where you're like, oh, if we had just done it differently, but you don't have time for the what ifs. So like Rachel said, we rally, we really get every support we can to fix it.
Question for you, Patrick.
Yeah.
Can you share best practices for working more effectively with event technology?
Oh, this is such a good question, because it does come down to someone's level of interactivity with technology, how well versed they are, how much they even enjoy it. Some people just don't even like having a big cell phone with all the different apps and features and doodads. But some people are really ingrained in this. I think for anybody, treating this as a sandbox when you come into it, before all the financials start coming in, before real people's records are coming into play, having a chance to come into any certain technology and just have a chance to play with it. I found a lot of success in letting my clients break things and then we fix it together, or doing something wrong and then coaching them how to do it something right. There's not always a good straight path from A to B. So it is a lot about sitting your client down with that first discussion and going, how do you want to learn? Is it visuals? Is it instructions? But definitely best practices outside of that, sandbox method or asking all the right questions. It is about making sure that you learn the way you want to learn. So if you get an agent and they're ready to coach you and you want to take that time to sit down for a screen share, that's always great. Always go look for things like help centers, learning tools, LMSs. And then lastly, if there's any sort of chance that you've worked with any other type of platform, I mean, hopefully the dots start to connect, but really utilizing experience to inform your decisions.
I like that. I've got one as well, Patrick. I think one of the big key factors is that open communication. And I think it's from the beginning, are the goals and priorities aligned? We try really hard to collect that information from our clients. What's important to you, and how is this platform going to help with that? So I think knowing that from the start really increases the chance that you're going to end up in the place that you wanted to be, and not, it's just having that open communication and not getting lost along the way.
Yeah.
If anything, share that information. If we're not asking, share it anyway. But that's probably a big one too. Is just that initial communication and those timelines.
So there's a good question out here too. So how do we get in touch with staff? Let's answer this in kind of a few different ways, Rachel. What are the kind of the quote unquote regular ways? And then what's the, everything's on fire way?
Well, we've got service tickets, which is helpful even in an emergency. It just really helps us expedite that request. Typically when there's a fire, we need a more technical person to look at that. Service tickets, of course, are a great option. phone calls, call your resource directly, get them on the phone to talk, at least alert them that there is a fire, and then they can get that process started for you. Email, always available. And then regular meetings, not so great for that fire, but regular checkpoints is another big thing we try to focus on. And not just for that onboarding, but longtime clients as well. A check-in. How are things? Hey, here are some product updates. Let's talk about how these can make this event even better. Even if it's your 7th year with us, let's talk about changes and improvements that we can make, because it just gets better and better every year.
To put another angle onto this, because I am not sure if the attendee who asked this is a current eShow client or not. If you're not a current eShow client, you want to get in touch with us, goeshow.com is our website. We've got a nice informational form to fill out. We also have a nice chatbot product that you can get some quick answers through if you needed it. It'll send you some information. Or client services at goeshow.com. We will be able to answer you through one of those 3 platforms if you're not a current client here. So,
any more questions do we have, Patrick?
I do not see any others. I'll put it out there to the chat. Does anybody else have any other questions before we end? Again, really, really happy, and thank you for everybody joining us today to talk about partnership success and how eShow can help deliver that to y'all.
Been fun, Patrick.
It's been great. Yeah, I don't see any other Q&A, so let's get out of here. Thank you, everybody, again for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good rest of your day.